Chosen one, God is crying over you tonight. Not the way you might imagine, not in disappointment, not in anger. He is crying the way a father cries when he watches his child pack a bag and walk toward the door, not knowing that everything they ever asked for is being delivered to the house in the morning. You are leaving one night too early. That is what is happening right now. Every prayer you whispered into that concrete ceiling was heard. Every silent bargain you made with heaven at 3 in the morning was recorded. Every time you forced yourself to believe for one more day, God marked it. And now the return on all of that faithfulness is closer than it has ever been. It is in the next room. But somewhere along the way, the asking became accepting. The praying became coping. The fire became a flicker. And you started rehearsing your disappointment instead of reaching for the door. That is what is making God weep. Not your failure, your timing. You are preparing to walk away at the very moment heaven is preparing to walk in. This message is here to stop you from making the most devastating almost of your life. Listen with everything you have, because what I'm about to walk you through will do 3 things before this message ends. First, I will show you exactly why you have been feeling the way you have been feeling, and it is not what you think. Second, you will receive a specific practice, a tool you can use tonight to realign your spirit with what God has been building in silence. And third, I will reveal what God has already prepared for you, the thing you are inches away from missing, and I will show you why this moment right now is your last open window to receive it. But none of that will reach you if you leave early. So stay until the very end, because who you are at the end of this message will not be the same person listening right now. You are not who you think you are right now. And what God sees when He looks at your life will change how you see everything, including yourself. But before I show you that, I need to show you something closer. Something happening inside you right now that you have not been able to name. There is a seed God planted in you before you were born, not a metaphor, a real thing, a frequency, a capacity, a fire that was placed inside your spirit the moment you took your first breath. That seed has been growing in silence, in soil no one could see, pushing through years of pressure and darkness and weight, and it is still alive. But something has shifted recently, something quiet, something you almost did not notice. And that quiet shift is the most dangerous thing happening in your life right now. Let me show you what I mean. It is 11 at night. You are sitting somewhere. Maybe your bed, maybe your couch, maybe a chair you have sat in 1,000 times before. The only light in the room is coming from a screen. And you are scrolling, not looking for anything, just moving your thumb because stopping feels worse than continuing. You pass things that used to excite you and you feel nothing, not sadness, not frustration, nothing. And somewhere underneath that nothing, a voice whispers something that should terrify you but instead just feels true. Maybe this is just who I am now. That voice is a lie, but it does not feel like a lie, does it? It feels like acceptance. It feels like maturity. It feels like you are finally being realistic instead of chasing something that was never coming. And that is exactly what makes it so dangerous, because you are not accepting reality. You are accepting a counterfeit version of reality that was designed to make you stop reaching right before your hand touches the door. Let me show you 5 signs that tell me you are in the drift right now. And I want you to pay attention, because the more of these you recognize, the more certain I am that this message was timed for you with an accuracy that only God could arrange. The first sign: you stop praying with expectation. You still pray, maybe every night, maybe every morning, but the prayers have changed. They used to carry weight. They used to feel like conversations. Now they feel like routines, like checking a box so you do not feel guilty. You say the words, but you stopped expecting anything to happen after you say them. And you did not even notice when that shift happened. It crept in so slowly that by the time you realized it, you had already been operating on autopilot for weeks, maybe months. The second sign: you stopped looking for signs. You used to notice everything. A number repeating, a song playing at exactly the right moment, a stranger saying something that felt like it was meant only for you. The universe used to speak and you used to listen, but lately you have trained yourself to stop listening, because every time you thought something was a sign, nothing followed. And after enough of those moments, you decided it was safer to stop looking than to keep being disappointed. The third sign: you stopped speaking over your own life. There was a time when you would wake up and declare things. You would say, "I am blessed. I am chosen. Something is shifting. My breakthrough is near." And you meant it. You felt the words vibrate in your chest when you spoke them. But now those declarations feel hollow. They feel like lies, and so you stop saying them. Not because you do not believe in the power of words, but because you do not believe the words apply to you anymore. The fourth sign, you stopped protecting your energy. You let conversations drain you that you would have walked away from 6 months ago. You let people into spaces you used to guard, not because your boundaries got weaker, but because you stopped believing there was anything worth protecting. When you do not think a future is coming, you stop guarding the present. And the fifth sign, you stopped believing the good was for you. You see other people receiving breakthroughs, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel a quiet ache. Not jealousy, something deeper, a resignation that says their story is different from mine. They were meant for that. I was meant for this. And this ordinary, heavy, stuck version of life must be what God intended for me after all. If your spirit just confirmed any of that, if something in your chest tightened when you heard those words, type the words, "I am still here," in the comments right now. Not for me, for you. Let your fingers seal what your spirit already knows. That you are still here, that you did not quit, that even in the drift something in you refused to let go completely. Now listen to me carefully, because I am about to reframe everything you just recognized. That heaviness you have been carrying, the one that sits on your chest like a stone you cannot move, that is not depression, that is not burnout. That is the weight of something trying to be born inside you. A baby in the womb gets heaviest right before delivery, and what God planted in you has been growing to the point where your old frame can no longer contain it. The heaviness is not the problem. The heaviness is the proof that something massive is about to break through. And the numbness, that terrifying feeling of nothing, that is not apathy. That is your spirit's last line of defense. Your soul has two options right now: reignite or shut down entirely. And the numbness is the pause between those two outcomes. You are standing in the hallway between who you were and who you're about to become. And hallways are not meant to be lived in. They are meant to be walked through. This is why you have been feeling the way you have. Not punishment, not abandonment, process. Your spirit is recalibrating for something your current frequency cannot hold. And that recalibration feels like silence. It feels like distance from God. It feels like the fire going out. But it is not going out. It is being compressed, because what comes next requires a different kind of flame. There was a man named Moses who spent 40 years in a desert believing his purpose was dead. 40 years. He was 80 years old. 80. Forgotten by the world. Forgotten, he thought, by God. And then a bush caught fire. And in one single moment, 4 decades of silence made sense. Every empty year, every question without an answer, every night wondering if he had imagined the whole thing, it was all preparation for a conversation that would change the trajectory of an entire people. He almost missed it. He almost walked past that bush, but he did not. And you will not either. Not tonight. But here is what I need you to understand. This alone, everything I just showed you, would be worth staying for. But I have not even come close to what I truly need to reveal to you, because there is a reason this drift is happening at this specific moment in your life. Not last year, not 5 years ago, right now. And it connects to something that scientists have recently measured about the human brain, something that explains not only why you feel the way you do, but why you, specifically you, feel it more intensely than most people around you. And when you hear it, the last 12 months of your life will suddenly make sense in a way nothing else has been able to explain. That seed I told you about, the one God planted in you before you were born, it has been pushing through darkness for years, through soil so dense that most people would have assumed nothing was growing at all. But it has been growing. And right now in this season, that seed is millimeters from the surface. Millimeters, not miles, not years away. Right there. So close that heaven can already see the first crack in the soil. And that is precisely why this next truth matters more than anything I have shared so far. You have been feeling out of time, like you are running out of something you cannot name, like there is an invisible clock somewhere ticking against you. And I need to tell you right now, you are not imagining that. That feeling is real. But it is not the kind of time you think. There is a word in the original Greek text, a word that most people never hear in any message, any teaching, any sermon. The word is kairos. And it is different from the word you know for time, which is chronos. Chronos is the clock on your wall. It is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It is the seconds and minutes that march forward whether you are ready or not. Chronos never stops. Chronos does not care about your situation. But kairos. Kairos is the appointed moment, the window that heaven opens at a specific point in your story for a specific purpose, and it does not stay open forever. Kairos is the reason Esther was placed in the palace at exactly the right generation, not a year earlier, not a year later. It is the reason Moses stood before that bush at 80 and not at 40. It is the reason this message found you tonight and not 3 weeks from now. You are not running out of Chronos. The clock will keep ticking whether you act or not. You are running out of Kairos, the appointed window, the divine opening, and Kairos does not repeat. When it closes, Chronos continues. The days keep passing, the sun keeps rising, but the door does not reopen the same way again. And this is where the tears of God come from. Not because you are failing, but because He can see the Kairos window He opened for you. He can see how perfectly He aligned every piece. And He can see you standing right in front of it with your eyes closed, ready to walk away. If something just unlocked in your understanding, if the word Kairos just gave language to a feeling you have been carrying but could not explain, type the words, "I see it now." Let that be the marker in your spirit that says, "I am no longer asleep. I see the window, and I am not walking past it." Now let me show you the difference between how you have been seeing your life and how heaven has been seeing it this entire time. You see delay, He sees timing. You have been waiting and interpreting that wait as God forgetting, as the universe moving on without you, as evidence that the promise expired. But from where God stands, every single day of that delay was a day He was positioning something you could not see from your angle. The delay was never denial, the delay was development. You see closed doors, He sees protection. Every rejection that stung, every opportunity that disappeared, every relationship that ended without explanation, you saw those as losses. Heaven saw those as removals. God was pulling things out of your path that would have collapsed under the weight of what He is about to give you. The doors did not close because you were not enough. They closed because what was behind them was not enough for you. You see silence. He sees the sound of final preparation. When a surgeon is about to perform the most critical operation, the room goes quiet. No music, no small talk, total focus. The silence you have been sitting in is not emptiness, it is the concentration of heaven. God has gone quiet because He is in the final stages of something so precise, so perfectly arranged for your specific wounds and your specific gifts, that even the angels are holding their breath. And you see a life that is falling apart. He sees a life that is being rearranged, not destroyed, rearranged, restructured, rebuilt from the inside, so that when the Kairos door swings open, you are not the person who would crumble under the blessing. You are the person who can carry it and not break. Before I go any further, before I show you what is on the other side of that door, I want to ask you something. If this message has brought any clarity at all, if it has named something you could not name or reframed something you have been misreading, gently press the like button. Not for me. So that this reaches someone else tonight who is also standing in front of their Kairos window with their eyes closed. Someone who needs to hear that the silence is not abandonment, that the delay is not denial. Your simple act could be the reason their window does not close. Now there is something I have been holding back, something that connects everything I have said so far to a discovery that will change how you understand yourself, your gifts, your exhaustion, and the specific season you are in. Scientists at institutions like MIT and Princeton and several other leading research universities have spent decades studying a specific brainwave pattern, a frequency that exists in every human brain but operates at wildly different levels from person to person. It is called the gamma wave, and what they found shook the scientific community. Every child is born with this frequency fully active. It is the brainwave connected to genius, to deep intuition, to what some researchers described as a direct bridge between the human mind and something beyond it. Children who have strong gamma waves learn faster, they feel deeper, they sense things other people cannot explain, and for most people, this frequency stays fully alive until around the age of 7. Then the world begins to suppress it. The educational system, the social conditioning, the noise, the pressure. Scientists call this the decline effect. And for most people, that frequency goes dormant. Not gone dormant, sleeping somewhere deep inside the brain, waiting. But here is what makes this personal to you, chosen one. You were not born with normal levels of gamma. You were born with more. That is why as a child you learned faster than your peers, why you felt everything more intensely, why you had intuitions that adults could not explain, what the world called your gift, science calls elevated gamma activity, and because yours was higher, when the decline effect took hold, you lost more than everyone else. The distance between who you were as a child and who you feel like right now, that distance is the measure of what was taken. And this is why the drift hit you harder. This is why the numbness feels deeper. This is why you feel like you have been living below your own potential for years. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying this exact phenomenon. He built an entire body of research around it, a system that mapped how neural pathways degrade over time and how they can be restored, work that included protocols like the youthful brain and eventually led to something I will share with you later in this message. Because what he discovered does not just explain your exhaustion. It offers a doorway back to the frequency you were born with, and that doorway connects to everything God has been preparing. But I will come back to that because right now there is something I have not told you yet. Something that might make you uncomfortable. Something about what God has already finished building for your future. The rooms He has already furnished, the doors He has already unlocked, the people He has already positioned, all waiting on the other side of your Kairos window. And when I show you the full picture of what you are inches away from walking past, you will understand why the Creator of the universe could not hold back His tears. Take a breath, a real one. Let your shoulders drop. The hardest part of this message is behind us. But the most important part, the part that will determine whether you step through that door or spend years wondering what was on the other side, that part is next. What I am about to show you is something God has already completed. Not something He is planning, not something He is considering, something He has already built, already furnished, already prepared with your name etched into every detail. And I need you to hear this clearly because the difference between what you think is happening in your life and what is actually happening is the distance between despair and destiny. The first thing God has already arranged for those entering this season is provision. Not the kind of provision that barely keeps you alive, not the scraping by, the juggling of bills, the constant calculating of whether you can afford to breathe this month. I am talking about provision that matches the size of the assignment He placed on your life. There are resources being redirected toward you right now that you did not apply for, that you did not network your way into, that no resume or interview could have opened. These are doors being carved by hands that do not operate on human logic. And the reason you have felt financially compressed lately is not because God forgot about your needs. It is because He has been clearing the space in your life for a flow of provision that your old containers were too small to hold. The second thing already prepared is connection, real connection. The kind of relationships where you do not have to perform, where you do not have to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable, where you are seen for exactly who you are, and that is enough. God has been repositioning people. Some He moved out of your life and it hurt. Some He is about to move in. And you will understand in a single conversation why the others had to leave. The loneliness you have been carrying is not your permanent address. It is the hallway between the relationships that drained you and the relationships that will fuel everything you are about to become. And the third thing, the one that carries the most weight, is purpose. Not a vague sense of, I am here for something, but a specific assignment, a clear knowing of what you are supposed to build, who you are supposed to reach, and what your particular pain has qualified you to heal in other people. This is the one that has been burning in your chest for years, the one you almost gave a name to 100 times, but pulled back because it felt too big, too impossible, too much for someone like you. But God did not give you that burning as a punishment. He gave it as a compass, and the needle is pointing directly at the door you have been standing in front of with your eyes closed. Now I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly, not out loud, just in your own heart. When was the last time you actually allowed yourself to believe that something good was on its way to you? Not hoped, not wished, not told yourself you should believe. When was the last time your body actually relaxed into the knowing that God was working, that the setup was real, that the waiting had a purpose, and the purpose had a deadline, and that deadline was close? If you cannot remember, that is not a failure. That is the wound. That is the scar tissue left behind by every promise that did not land, every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling every time you let your guard down and got hurt anyway. And that scar tissue has built a wall between you and the very thing God is trying to hand you. The obstacle in your path right now is not between you and your destiny. The obstacle is between you and your own belief that destiny is real. It is not an external wall, it is an internal one. And it was built by doubt, layer by layer, disappointment by disappointment, until the wall became so thick that even God's voice sounds muffled on the other side. But here is what I need you to understand about that fear. The fact that you are afraid of missing this. The fact that something inside you tightened when I described the provision and the connection and the purpose. That fear is not weakness. That fear is discernment. It is your spirit recognizing the truth before your mind has caught up. People who were never meant to have something do not feel afraid of losing it. Your fear is the proof that this was always yours. Notice something for me right now. Notice how your breathing has changed since the beginning of this message. It is not the same rhythm it was when you first started reading. Notice how your chest feels different, like something that was locked is starting to shift. And notice how your spirit has been leaning forward even as your body stays still, as if some part of you already knows that what I am saying is not new information. It is a reminder of something you forgot you knew. Let me tell you about someone. I will not say his name, but his story might feel familiar. 14 months ago, this man hit a wall, not the kind of wall you hit and bounce back from, the kind that flattens you. His career collapsed, not slowly, not with warning. One phone call, one meeting, and 14 years of building something was reduced to a box of personal items on a Tuesday afternoon. He spent the first 3 months applying for everything, sending out dozens of applications a week. Nothing came back. Not rejection letters, nothing. Silence. And that silence did something to him that the job loss itself could not do. It made him question whether God was real. By month 9, he had stopped praying entirely. He told me later that he did not stop because he was angry. He stopped because he ran out of words. There was nothing left to say to a ceiling that never answered. By month 12, he wrote something in a journal that he has never shown anyone. He wrote, "I think I imagined the whole thing, the calling, the purpose, the feeling that I was here for something. I think I made it all up." And then on month 14, the day after he mentally resigned from faith, not publicly, not dramatically, just quietly decided in his heart that he was done waiting, a phone call came from a company he had never contacted for a role that did not exist 3 weeks earlier. A role that paid more than anything he had earned before in a field that used every single skill he thought had been wasted during those 14 months of silence. He told me that when he hung up the phone, he did not celebrate. He wept because he realized he had been one day away from walking out of the room right before his name was called. He also told me something else. He said that after that first breakthrough, he discovered there was a whole journey he did not know existed, layers beyond that first step. He mentioned names I had not heard before, tools like neuroactive protocols that went deeper into restoration than he thought possible. But he always came back to the same point. It all started with one decision, the decision to not quit on the day his mind had already signed the papers. If this message ended right here, it would already be the most important thing you heard this year. But I am not done. I am not even close. Because there is something about your true identity, something about who you really are and why you were built to carry what is coming, that will make everything I have said snap into place. And there are names in your story that have not been revealed yet. There are phases after this moment, things like destiny's embrace, that exist in a chapter God has not opened for you yet. But this chapter, the one where you choose to stay, this one is where it all begins. And before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you long after you close this. A declaration that is not just words, it is an activation, and it was written for you before you were born. So stay with me. We are approaching the moment this entire message was building toward. If you receive what is being spoken over you right now, if your spirit is confirming that the provision, the connection, and the purpose I described are real and they belong to you, type the words "I receive" in the comments. Let that be your stake in the ground, not hope, but reception. There is a difference between hoping something comes and actively receiving what is already on its way. Receive it now. A seed that breaks through the soil at the last moment and gets no water dies right at the surface. That is the cruelest death, not in the deep, dark underground where no one expected it to survive, but at the surface where the light is already touching it, where one more day of rain would have been enough, so close to life, so close to everything. And God is not crying because you failed. He is crying because the seed is right there, right at the surface, and you are walking away from the garden. But here is what changes everything. Here is the truth that takes every single thing I have told you and turns it from a warning into a promise. You are still here, you are still reading, you did not click away, you did not scroll past. Something in your spirit grabbed onto this message and refused to let go, and that refusal, that stubborn unwillingness to leave even when your mind told you nothing was going to change, that is the most powerful thing about you right now. That is not desperation, that is destiny recognizing its own voice. You are not too late. Waking up late is still waking up. And the fact that you are afraid of missing this proves you were meant to have it. People who are not chosen do not feel the weight you are feeling right now. People who were never meant to carry this assignment do not lose sleep over it. Your exhaustion is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that what you are carrying is real, and it is heavy because it matters. Your sensitivity was never an accident. Your isolation was never an accident. Your specific timing in finding this message tonight was never an accident. And the way your spirit has been responding to every word, that was never an accident. And I hear the Spirit saying, I did not bring you through the fire to let you miss the feast. I did not carry you through the wilderness to abandon you at the gate. I did not plant that seed in you and water it with decades of patience just to watch it die at the surface. Open your eyes, child. Everything is ready. I have been waiting for you, and I have not stopped waiting. That is who you are, chosen one. You are not the person who almost missed it. You are the person who woke up just in time. You are the seer, the one who perceives what others cannot. You are the truth carrier, the one who sees through every illusion this world constructs. You are the light bearer, the one who walks into dark rooms and changes the temperature without saying a word. And you are the pioneer, the one who goes first into territory that has no map so that others can follow the trail you leave behind. I told you at the very beginning that you are not who you think you are. Now you know what I meant. Now I want to take you back to something I shared earlier. Something about a frequency, a brainwave that every child is born with, and that the modern world slowly shuts down. I told you about the decline effect. I told you that your gamma waves, the ones connected to genius, intuition, and spiritual connection, were suppressed starting around age 7. And I told you that a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years researching how to reverse that process. Here is what I did not tell you. Dr. Lake took everything he discovered across 3 decades of clinical research, everything about how the brain can be guided back to its original frequency through a technology called brain entrainment, and he compressed it into something remarkably simple. A 7-minute audio track that uses specific sound patterns to reactivate the gamma wave directly. Not through meditation, which asks your brain to change itself from the inside and can take months or years of consistent practice with no guarantee. This works differently. Brain entrainment reaches the brain from the outside. It is measurable. It is repeatable. It was tested in laboratories and confirmed by researchers at institutions like MIT and Princeton. And it activates the exact frequency that was taken from you. He called it the genius song. Now I know what you might be thinking. You have tried things before, programs, practices, sounds, tools, and they did not work. That skepticism is not a flaw. It is the intelligence of someone who has been disappointed enough times to stop trusting easily. I respect that, and I would never ask you to believe based on a promise. I am asking you to consider the evidence, because what makes this different is not a better sales pitch. What makes this different is the mechanism. Everything you have tried before, meditation, healing frequencies, affirmation tracks, all of those ask your brain to change itself from within. That process is slow, unpredictable, and for most people, it never reaches the depth where gamma lives. Brain entrainment does not ask your brain to change. It reaches the frequency directly and activates it. That is why the results are measurable on an EEG. That is why they are repeatable across thousands of participants. That is not a belief. That is data. and I would never disrespect your financial situation. $39 is not a small number for many people, and I understand that. What I will tell you is this. The traditional methods for activating gamma waves cost $300 per session for biofeedback therapy. A home biofeedback device costs $7,000. Months of intensive meditation retreats can run into thousands. Dr. Lake took the same result and made it accessible for $49. But because his mission was always about reaching the people who truly need this, not about profit, he created a special access point at $39 available only through the link connected to this message. That is it. $10 for the technology that replaces equipment worth thousands plus 4 bonus tools that come with it. A track designed to activate focus and confidence in children called Genius Child. The original book that inspired the film The Secret. A guided visualization for 4 areas of your life, and an infographic of the 5 habits that shape your future. All of that, plus a complete money-back guarantee with no conditions. If you feel nothing, you get everything back. The only risk is not trying. Every day that gamma stays dormant is another day your prayers feel like they are hitting that concrete ceiling. Another day your decisions stay clouded by the fog you cannot explain. Another day your kairos window narrows. The version of you on the other side of this decision, the one who already reactivated what was taken, is looking back at this exact moment as the turning point. Not a perfect decision, a brave one. It begins with one step. One thing I need you to hear: there are counterfeit versions of this out there. Websites that copied the name that sell ordinary audio files with no real brain entrainment technology behind them. Those do not work, and they were designed to exploit the very people this was created to help. The only way to receive the authentic version with the full technology, all 4 bonuses, and the complete money-back guarantee is through the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Do not search for it on Amazon, Spotify, or anywhere else. Those are not the real thing. For those whose spirit resonates with what I just shared, the Genius song is waiting for you through that link. Only if you feel led, only if something in your chest just confirmed that this is part of your path, and if not, everything else in this message still belongs to you fully. If you are ready to release the doubt that has been standing between you and what God prepared, type the words "I release" in the comments right now, not as a wish, as a declaration. I release the doubt. I release the fog. I release the lie that told me nothing was coming. Let it go right now. Now let me give you something you can carry with you long after this message ends. Something practical, something you can use tonight. I call it the window check. 3 questions that will tell you whether your Kairos window is active in any area of your life. The first question, check the restlessness. Ask yourself, is this restlessness random, or does it have a direction? Random restlessness feels like anxiety. Directional restlessness feels like a pull. If something specific keeps tugging at your attention, if a particular area of your life keeps rising to the surface no matter how many times you push it down, that is not anxiety, that is Kairos knocking. The second question, check the timing. Are unusual doors appearing? Not the doors you planned for, not the ones you strategized and worked your way toward, but doors that showed up without invitation. Conversations that felt strangely significant, opportunities that arrived from directions you were not looking. When Kairos is active, the universe begins rearranging the furniture around you, whether you asked it to or not. And the third question, check the resistance. Is the obstacle in your life intensifying? This sounds backward, but it is the most reliable indicator. When you are close to a breakthrough, resistance does not decrease, it increases. The fog gets thicker, the doubt gets louder, the temptation to quit gets stronger. If the pressure in your life has been escalating recently, that is not a sign that things are getting worse. That is a sign that what is on the other side of the wall is worth fighting for. If all 3 of those are true right now, your Kairos is active and you do not have the luxury of waiting. The second tool is simpler, but I want you to use it every single morning starting tomorrow. I call it the realignment practice. It takes 60 seconds. When you wake up, before you reach for your phone, before you check anything, before the world tells you who it needs you to be today, you speak 4 sentences. I am not too late. I am positioned. I am awake. And I will not miss what God prepared for me. 60 seconds, 4 sentences every morning. and watch how the drift begins to reverse. You went in exhausted and you are coming out renewed. You went in doubting and you are coming out discerning. You went in drifting and you are coming out anchored. You went in silent and you are coming out declared. You went in thinking you were almost too late and you are coming out knowing you are right on time. You are not alone in this. Right now across the world, chosen ones are waking up from the same drift. They are hearing the same truth. They are feeling the same shift. And the fact that thousands of spirits are moving in the same direction at the same time tells you something about the size of what God is doing in this season. This is not a private miracle. This is a collective awakening, and you are part of it. Now, before I speak over your life, I want you to do something with me. In your mind, not physically, just in your imagination, I want you to see yourself standing in front of a door. It is the door I have been describing throughout this entire message, the Kairos door, the one with everything behind it, the provision, the connection, the purpose. Your hand is already on the handle. You can feel the cold metal against your palm. On the other side of that door is the version of your life that God built in silence while you were busy surviving. And the only thing left is to turn the handle. Feel the weight of it. Feel how ready your hand is. Feel how your spirit has already stepped forward even though your body has not moved yet. This is not a prayer, this is an activation, and it was written for you before you took your first breath. Father, I thank you for the tears you shed over this chosen one, because those tears are not sadness. They are love so deep that it overflows. I thank you that your tears tonight were not the end of the story. They were the beginning of the turn. I thank you for counting every night they stayed awake, for recording every prayer they whispered into that concrete ceiling, for marking every single day they forced themselves to believe when everything in their world said stop. You saw it all. You saw the moment the fire dimmed. You saw the moment the asking became accepting. You saw the moment they almost signed the papers on their faith, and you did not look away, not once. And now we release. We release the doubt that built walls so thick your voice sounded muffled on the other side. Release. We release the numbness that convinced this chosen one that feeling nothing was safer than feeling everything. Release. We release the lie that said maybe this is just who I am now. Release. We release the fear of hoping again, the scar tissue of every promise that did not land, every prayer that seemed to bounce, every open door that turned out to be a wall. Release. We release the timeline, the comparison, the measuring of this journey against anyone else's clock. Release. We release the resignation that crept in so quietly they did not even notice it had taken the driver's seat. Release. And we release the old identity, the version of this person who believed they were someone who always almost makes it but never quite gets there. That person is not here anymore. Release. Now we activate. We activate the gamma frequency that was dormant, the God-given genius that was suppressed but never destroyed. We activate the discernment to recognize Kairos when it is standing right in front of them. We activate the seer, the one who perceives what others miss. We activate the truth carrier, the one who cannot live behind a mask no matter how much easier it would be. We activate the light bearer, who changes the atmosphere of every room without trying. And we activate the pioneer, the one who goes first so that others do not have to go alone. We do not beg for this. We activate it because it was already placed inside them. We are not asking for something new, we are waking up something ancient. Now we protect what is rising. Cover this awakening from the self-sabotage that has killed every breakthrough before it could take root. Guard the seed that just broke through the surface from premature exposure, from the voices that will say it is too good to be true, from the old patterns that will try to pull them back into the drift. Protect the fire that just reignited from every wind that has blown it out before, and protect this chosen one from their own tendency to abandon themselves right before the harvest. And I hear the Father saying, I did not bring you this far to leave you here. I did not cry over you so that my tears would be wasted. I cried because I love you with a violence that shakes the foundations of heaven. And tonight I am not asking you to be perfect. I am asking you to turn the handle. One turn, that is all I need from you. One act of faith, one decision to stay in the garden, and I will do the rest. I have always done the rest. You were never carrying this alone. You just could not see my hands because they were underneath you the entire time, holding you up when you thought you were falling. I am the one who woke up. I am the one who stayed. I am the one who did not quit on the day my mind had already signed the papers. I am the one who turned the handle. I am chosen, I am positioned, I am right on time. And what God prepared for me will not pass me by, not today, not ever again. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in this for a moment. Let the weight of what just happened settle into your bones. Let it sink past your thoughts and into the place where knowing lives. You do not need to understand everything right now. You just need to let it land. Water the seed. One more day, one more act of faith, one more morning where you wake up and speak those 4 sentences before the world tells you who to be, and watch what breaks through the surface. It is done, it is sealed, and so it is in Jesus' name. Amen. If your answer to everything spoken over you tonight is yes, type the words "I am ready" in the comments. Say it with the force of everything that just shifted inside you, because heaven heard the activation and heaven is waiting for your response. One more thing before you go. You are not the person you were when you started reading. The drift is broken, the seed has water, and God is no longer crying. If this message brought clarity to confusion, if it brought peace to something that has been chaotic inside you, if it gave a name to something you have been feeling but could not explain, let your like be your amen without words. Let it be the signal that sends this light further so it can reach someone else standing in front of their own Kairos window tonight. If this message found you at the right moment, stay connected. There are more words being prepared for your next season, more truths that have not been revealed yet, and they need to be able to find you when the time comes. For those who felt called to what I shared earlier about the technology Dr. Lake created, the link is in the description and the pinned comment, only if you feel led. And one final thing, if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who looks fine on the outside but you know something deeper is happening, someone who has stopped talking about their dreams, someone who used to burn bright but has gone dim in a way that worries you, send this to them. Do not wait. Do not assume they are fine, because this might be the message that catches them before their window closes. This might be the confirmation they stopped praying for, and you might be the reason their seed does not die at the surface. Go in peace, chosen one. The drift is over. The seed is growing and the door is open. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season.